What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Mosen here with MTA 37 for the 17th of November 2018, and the topics. Timeline for Northdale, they fixed something there. A follow-up on the weapon skill and the hit rating, bug tracker, and progressive itemization and stages all in one. That's from the EU Blizzard forums, and it's a quite interesting forum post. So let's jump right into the first topic of the day, and that would be from the Lights Hope staff and the Parker. That's at least how I. There's two P's in his name, so I just suppose that this is going to be how the name is. But he says, "Greetings, heroes of Azeroth," and he basically goes on to say that they are going to accelerate the timeline for Northdale because, well, World of Warcraft Classic is on the horizon, at least on the near horizon, and they are trying to, or they said they were going to accelerate the timeline a little bit, obviously to get all of the content out for players to see, and basically they're saying our guideline was, when we originally set out, was 4 to 5 months per 40-man raid tier. This has now been shortened to 3 months per tier to accommodate the fact that there is still a large amount of content to get through in a very short time, and with the knowledge that pushing the major raid tiers out too swiftly will burn players out, we are opting to release patches 1.7 and 1.8 at the same time. This allows us to spread the launch of the 40-man Ankiraj and Naxxramas raids 3 months apart, which would otherwise not be possible were we to stagger those two patches. Okay, now I get it. Furthermore, doing it this way gives players adequate time to experience and acquire rewards from them before the next tier. We understand that this is not ideal, and players will undoubtedly feel pressure, blah, 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 and they're trying to fix the resources to get consumables. Well, that is something that I certainly wouldn't agree on, but it's the end of this era, so I guess why not? And I just don't understand why they fix spawn rates all the time, which I understand. Of course, I understand there's a lot of people on one server. Don't get me wrong, but what I don't understand is still why they're doing it. It's the same with the loopers. Tragedy, that instead of making it on a higher spawn rate, they made it on a 10-minute spawn rate, so that every hunter and their mother are running around with lupus, which is absolutely disgusting if you ask me, these silly wolves. But that's just my opinion, and I hate hunters. No, I'm just joking. Okay, and then another major decision is basically the upgraded PvP rewards are going to come out, and basically they're gonna take into account the lifetime rank that you ever acquired, and you will be able to purchase the new and updated weapons and armor. That is, of course, because they know that ranking towards the end of the server is going to be unlikely for players to do, and re-ranking to gain a reward you theoretically already had because of your rank is not going to be very likely either, because the servers are coming to an end, and that's why they are bringing out the upgraded rewards. And if you have been rank 14 in the past, this is how I understand it at least, you will be able to purchase the new and upgraded weapons from here. That is certainly a change that I think a lot of people can agree on, and they're saying we believe this is the best course of action moving forward for both aspects of the game, PvE and PvP. And then there's an RP slow statement at the end: sharpen your swords and gather consumables, tame your lupus. Didn't I say that? It's bad, it's terrible. What a terrible person you are, the Parker. No, I'm just joking, of course. Yeah, basically, thank you for the update, and now everybody knows that the timeline is going to be accelerated even further. Now, then it is time to follow up on the whole weapon skill and hit rating issue, and Hanzemon, yes, or also Struggler, he left a comment below my YouTube video providing me with this link, so thank you very much for that, dude. And he reported this, this issue on Elysium and Lights Hope, and apparently this didn't get a whole lot of recognition, and you know, the sources are pretty clear from back in the day, so you know that this is what I was talking about. At this moment, current behavior right now, the effects of weapon skill over the mischance against a mob 3 levels higher look like this. 8.6%. This is basically your mischance if you are a non-human, and you can go down to 5.4% if you are at weapon skill of 305. So for now, basically what this means is that as a human or orc, you know, technically you would need 9% hit to be kept here on these servers at the moment. And as a human, you would need, well, either you ignore the 0.4%, or you say, okay, I want to be completely kept, so you would theoretically need 6%. Still, you're gaining a lot of hit from this. Now, the interesting part here is that, you know, this is basically what it should be from the get-go. Or actually, you know, this is technically the correct value if you want to follow the old sources. So this is actually, you know, pretty cool. But the 300 skill should be 5.6 instead of 8.6. According to what we know from the sources, if there's anybody else and has more insight into this, please let us know. Because as it stands right now, this is the 1% per level above the player. It gives the raid bosses 1% mischance. I don't understand why that is, but apparently that's how things are being handled right at this very moment. Anyhow, you still, you know, the cap at 300 is 9%, and then at 305, technically seen, it's still 6%, so you're gaining a lot of hit. Beyond this, you are gaining 0.04% hit rating from another point of weapon skill. Now, the intended behavior, supposedly, is, you know, the mischance being at 5.4%. So if you want to have a read at this particular link, I'm going to put it into the description below, because we're not going to go through everything now. I think it's pretty clear. But it's also better to just read this yourself before anybody explains this the whole time. But yeah, so far you can see the current formulas are, or the current behavior of the hit rating is still at this 8.6% value. And now this is interesting because nobody really knows where these extra 3% do come from. But we might get more insight into that if anyone wants to help out on this particular issue. Then we jump into the classic discussion, and we're right here with a post coming in from Stahl. Well, that's probably pronounced in a different way, but you know, I'm not Scandinavian, so I cannot read these silly letters. Anyway, he has a good point, and he comes in progressive itemization and stages all in one. Now, Stahl says, at BlizzCon they showed the 4 content stages, and it provides a YouTube link to that. As you can see, it's their current thinking, meaning it's not final, and that's what I pointed out earlier too. And he's right. So these are this was like the first intended plan they had in that video. If you want to go and check this video out, go and do so. And he says we can provide a little bit of information and make it a little bit more vanilla-like and improve that. And he is right in suggesting that, and I think it's a very good idea, and I wanted to point out his threat because I think it's a good thing to do. So he says, let's fiddle with it. The first stage should be MC with launch gear, that means the pre 1.4 gear, Onyxia and Maraudon. I could definitely agree with this because Maraudon of course has like 1 or 2 good items, but they're certainly not as strong as the Dire Maul items they are. And it's more of a leveling dungeon, to be quite fair, so I can understand this one. From my point of view, you could also move Maraudon a little bit down, but he says in the second stage he wants to have the runes of Dire Maul coming out with Azuragos and Lord Kazakh, and the world buffs of course. And right, this would be a sort of a catch-up mechanic of people coming in a little bit later, and this is what a lot of people have been advocating for, Dire Maul not being out on launch, because it very much gives out very strong gear that would otherwise make stuff very easy. And we're not talking about a little bit here, we're talking about quite a bit. And we're talking about things like, MP5 gear for healers and ad heal for healers and a lot of other stuff. We've covered this in early MTAs and in other videos, and there's a lot of content out there, so we're not gonna dive into this a lot. After that, he says Assault on Blackwing there, that's the BWL patch coming with the PvP system. Or I think he didn't really mention the battlegrounds where they should come in, but this would be a good time, I guess. Alternatively, the battlegrounds could also come in here at the Ruins of Diremol, but this is a good spot to be in for me personally. But PvP rewards coming in, which include the epic PvP and PvE gear. The Darkmood Fair, well, actually this gives access to a couple of trinkets, such as the Bis Holy Priest trinket, so yeah, why not? I can see this. And the Thorian Brotherhood rep rewards, that's probably like Nightfall. And I think a lot of Fire Risk gear too, to be quite honest. So that would be actually very interesting, because all the Dark Iron Fire Risk gear wouldn't be available at launch, which I think it was. Wasn't. I don't know. But yeah, this would make sense for me. But this was how it was. I think there were some rep rewards in, to be quite honest, up until the last service that we played on. But a couple extra ones were added at Blackwing Lair release. After that, he wants to release the G, the Zul'Gurub with the world buffs, shoulder enchants, and the oils coming in, the green nightmare dragons, and the weekends. No, that's basically the extra, not the BGs, but the weekends for the BG. So the extra honor gains and all that stuff. That's actually a good idea, so that comes in later. The tier 0.5, that is a cool topic actually. I can see that coming in at ZG. I think it was later at AQ patch usually. But I think, putting it a little bit earlier in the timeline would make sense. These sets aren't aren't really that strong or big alternatives for raiders in a general sense that, it's nice to have for people, for alts, or for people to have as a kind of thing to do or chase, because the quest lines, to be honest, are very long and very costly, so it's not really a thing that you can just take to trivialize content or anything. But if anything, I think it was coming out at Anchorage, so that's debatable, and we'll get into that in the lower portion of the thread, where people hate their guts already. And upgraded MC gear. Now this is interesting because you would only upgrade it here. I don't know if it wasn't a little bit earlier. I think it came here with the Diremol patch or with the Blackwing Lair patch. However the case, I can see it here. I'm always for having less strong or weaker gear to make it a little bit harder. But that's just me, and I know people hate each other over this. Other people's opinions are apparently a death threat, as you will see lower in this thread. The Gates of Anchorage, then 20 and 40 Silithus content, upgraded PvP gear, and upgraded and new dungeon gear. And of course the rest is the next Realmers. So yeah, it's a good thread. I want to point out a good thread coming in from Snarl, and I think this is something we should all contribute to if we can. And yeah, after that it kind of sadly goes into a flame war where people say, okay, this should be 1.12 and everything should be 1.12, and this is not, we can't have it that easy. And I advocate for having the correct formulas in game, but just saying, okay, this should be 1.12 and then everything should be out. Well, arguing with that, next Rams should be out on release. And how fun would that be? Not really. And of course there should be itemized, item progression. It's, I don't know. It's a terrible thing here that's going on, and people, I really want to call out for people just not being so overzealous about their opinion. Let's keep the facts where the facts are, and everyone can have their own opinion, okay? And not everybody needs to think that anyone wants to come to your house and stab you in the throat for having another opinion, okay? If you don't agree with somebody, it's fine. The level this is going on at is just a little bit disgusting, if you ask me. Anyhow, I want to point out one more thing, and then here comes in the dire mode discussion again from Vishuni, and he's asking why dire mode is such a big deal or considered such a big thing, and this is really cool. He's asking a question because he doesn't understand. So props to him for not saying, "I dare you say dire mode shouldn't be out." He's just asking why it's not, why it's such a big deal, and people can actually give normal responses to this. So I'm very pleased by this, indeed. So again, Stahl, thank you for this. And he correctly points out that there is, there's gear out of 5-man dungeons that's on par with the raid gear, in case you were wondering, and you can get a lot of gold out of DM if you know how to do this. Now it's still debatable if everybody's gonna do this. Usually, it's like giving out gold tips to people. 90% of them are just not going to do it anyway, so I don't know, but it's still a big point, and the biggest thing, as he correctly points out, are the world buffs, and let me up a little bit here, are the world buffs, of course, which give you a lot of buffs, and you can really, if a whole raid gets 200 attack power extra, okay, 3% crit with spells, and 15% stamina on all the raid. Every raid member has 15% more life. That makes a huge difference in combination with the upgraded gear, and we already have the 1.12 talents, so this is going to be very, very disappointing otherwise. Then there's more flame, but overall it's a good thread from Stahl, so thank you very much for that. I wanted to point this out. Leave your comments and your feedback on this one. I'm gonna put the links into the description, and rightly so. I will put out a couple more videos now and fire up the stream. This has been MTA for the 17th of November 2018. I thank you very much for watching, and I'm awaiting your comments in the section below. Thank you very much. Bye bye.